Here we are again. I'm going to give you some basic instruction about how to throw 5 balls. I think it's very important to remember a few things. First thing, master the flash. By that I mean throw each prop once and catch it. The flash is the basis of the pattern, and I've talked to a lot of really good jugglers, and they will tell you that that is absolutely key. Knowing where those props are as you throw them initially is key to making sure that the rest of the pattern, once you start to run it, really works out. You want to look for things that go wrong in the flash and fix those early. It's real tempting to pick up 5 balls and just sort of try to go with it. Go for 6, 7, 10 catches, and you might be able to do it. But the problem is you never really had a basic solid pattern. And so if that happens, then pretty much you're learning how to sort of catch bad throws as opposed to learning how to make good throws to begin with. And a lot of advanced jugglers out there who are watching this are going to be nodding your head saying, yeah, this is old news. But I'm just saying it because I think it helps. So master the flash. Flash, again, throw each prop once and just try to get a clean catch. Okay? If you drop, it's perfectly okay. But before you bend down and just pick those things up and try again, second hint would be look at where they landed. That can give you a great deal of information. Okay? If they landed way far out on the left side of your body, then that tells you that your throw was too far or too hard to the left. If you threw a ball from your right hand and somehow it landed on the right side of your body, that means that you didn't actually have that nice crossing pattern. So you can learn a lot of information just by checking out where those props landed before you pick them up. Okay? Some folks will tell you that once you can do the flash 10 times in a row perfectly, then try to do another throw. So you try to do 6 throws. And once you can do 6 throws perfectly, then try to do 7. I tend to think that's a really boring way to practice. So I borrow a little, training regimen from Ivan Pissell. He does what's called a pyramid fashion, which means that you work on the flash when you can get that 10 times perfectly. Then you go to the next level and you try to do, say, 7 or 8 catches. When you can do 7 or 8 catches 4 or 5 times, then you try to go for like one master run of, say, 10 catches. And you just do that once. And then you sort of call it quits for the day. I like that attitude because it lets you have some fun trying to throw the pattern or do the pattern a little longer, which isn't quite as boring as just doing this. I mean, that gets really dull. So you have a little more fun practicing, but it also helps you with what it's like to try to sort of recover after you've done a longer run. And his thought is, and I tend to agree after having juggled for a while, that usually tricks or patterns tend to get messed up at the very, very beginning or at the very end of the run. And I think that's true. So his idea of doing the flash and getting that down perfect, and then also trying to do a longer run and get a clean catch there, I think that's helpful too, because it does address both ends of the problem. You'll notice when I start, I got my hands down pretty low. I tend to throw about, for 5 anyhow, 12 to 16 inches above my head. That's comfortable for me. Play around with that. I don't think it does you any good generally to try to juggle them very low. Okay, I think it's real hard to get control when they're real low. I also think it's real hard to get control when they're really, really high. So you want to go for a happy medium, and you'll play around with that to discover what's good for you. For me, as I said, 12 to 16 inches above my head seems to be a comfortable place. Make sure that when you juggle, they all stay in the same two-dimensional plane, that they're not having to reach out like this and go backward and forward. I also listen. as I'm juggling. I try to listen and make sure that I'm sort of hitting a regular cadence, that the props are hitting my hand at a regular kind of beat. If not, then while I'm juggling, I try to look and see if the pattern is maybe higher on the right-hand side or too high on the left-hand side or whatever that might be. What else? How do you consider, I get this question a lot, do you try to juggle wide or tall and narrow? Well, I try to think more a tall pattern and perhaps a little narrow as opposed to wide. That just seems to work for me. Now, I'm not trying to get them all to go straight up. I mean, you still want that nice X shape, but I try to think about taller with more control as opposed to wide. All right, that just doesn't feel natural to me. If I'm doing a lot of this, I notice that I feel like my hands are kind of having to make up time and sort of throw with uneven muscle movement. So I try to sort of imagine my hands. Sometimes I even try to imagine my elbows are kind of attached to my sides so that I can keep the pattern sort of in front of me this way as opposed to throwing really wide. Make sure you practice a little bit every day. Now, I wish I could say I did this myself. I don't. But really, I've always heard this, and I guess I should believe it and take the advice myself. Better to practice just 10 minutes a day, every day, than to practice 2 or 3 times a week for 40 minutes at a shot. Really, I've heard the idea of building muscle memory and muscle control is to work on it a little bit every day. That's much better than trying to do an hour and a half practice once or twice a week. I need to get better about that myself, but when I have tried to apply that, it tends to work out better for me. Last thing I'll say is this. Somebody told me this about 5 clubs recently, and I'm sure it's also true of 5 balls. There probably is a day where you can remember you got 3 balls. There's a day you can remember probably when you pretty much mastered 4 balls. 5 is a little different. I'm sure it's true of 6 and 7 and however many you want to do too. Well, for most of us anyhow. Mastering 5, there's not really a day, I don't think, where most people could say they just got it. I'm sure there are exceptions, okay? But I think most people work at 5 and work at 5, and it's kind of an ongoing pattern where you get better at it. I don't think there's a day where you suddenly go, I got it. So just have patience when you're trying to practice 5, and it'll get there. It really will. You'll get to the point where, short of your muscles getting tired, you can probably run it as long as you want because you will have paid attention to keeping that sort of nice, perfect pattern. Look, I hope this helps. Thanks again for asking me to give some advice. It's nice for me to be able to try to think about that. Yeah, thank you. Good luck.